Welcome to Dimsum Mandarin, Lesson 21. 大家早上好，欢迎收听 Dimsum Mandarin. Welcome to Lesson 21, our first lesson of Module 3. In this new launch, we are really excited to share the results of your feedback through certain improvements you will experience. Once again, thank you very much for being part of our Dimsum Mandarin community. Dimsum Mandarin Module 3 will follow a two-step format. Firstly, you will learn key grammar points and new vocabulary, and secondly, you will put the new knowledge to practice by listening to dialogues. The dialogues will feature Guangxiang, his wife Li Jing, and James. Remember them? They are friends who are living in Shanghai. James is a British expat. Guangxiang and Li Jing are a couple from different regions in China. Through their life experiences, our Dimsum Mandarin community will get to explore and learn a wide range of practical topics, such as going on business trips in China, overseas education, job finding, and even starting up a business. Hopefully, you will be as excited as we are to learn some practical social and cultural insights on the Chinese culture in Dimsum Mandarin Module 3. If you are listening to the free version of this podcast, you'll be receiving a summary of the dialogue. To get more out of your learning experience, we suggest that you check out our extended edition, where we will go through in detail the language used in the dialogue line by line. To get more information about our premium memberships, just head over to www.dimsummandarin.com. Also, if you have not done so, do click on the subscribe button in iTunes or any other podcast application you might be using to receive our weekly lessons every Thursday. In 20 minutes or less, you can enjoy learning Mandarin on the go. Alright, let's dive right into Lesson 21. 我们开始上课吧。So far, we've learned how to talk about present events and actions, as well as certain future actions and plans. Starting from this lesson, we will learn how to use the particle le and be able to talk about and share more about the past. The particle le is a very simple Chinese character with only 2 strokes, and its pinyin is L-E with a neutral tone. It has many uses, and its use often confuses many Mandarin beginners. However, don't worry, with all things at Dimsum Mandarin, we'll break things down into bite-sized chunks so that you will gain the confidence to use le as accurately as possible. To learn the first use of le, we are going to revisit 3 sentences that we've seen previously. The first sentence is from Lesson 6, and that is 我有孩子. Do you remember what it means? That's right, 我有孩子 means I have a child. It states simply the fact that you have a child. That's 我有孩子. Now, we are going to put le at the end of the sentence and say 我有孩子了. By putting le at the end of the sentence changes its meaning slightly to I have a child now. So you can imagine that you are saying this to a friend you have not met for a couple of years, and during this period, you have went from the state of not having a child to the state of having a child. The particle le essentially describes a change of state or circumstance as described by the sentence before le. That is, 我有孩子. Let's practice saying this sentence a couple more times. 我有孩子了. 我有孩子了. Let's now look at a sentence from Lesson 16. That is, 我会开车. Can you recall what that means? That's right. It means I can drive or I know how to drive. Again, it simply states the fact that you are able to drive. 我会开车. Let's again put le at the end of the sentence and say 我会开车了. The sentence now takes on a new nuance and means, I know how to drive now. Again, you can imagine you are saying this to someone you have not met in a while, and during this time, you have went from not knowing how to drive to knowing how to drive. The particle le essentially describes a change of state or circumstance as described by the sentence before le, that is, 我会开车. Let's practice saying this. 我会开车了。我会开车了。One common adverb you'll hear to stress that something has already occurred is 已经。已经。已经 can be placed before a verb or an auxiliary verb like 会, and it means something has already occurred, and the new state is still valid up to the time of speaking. So in this situation, we can use 已经 to further stress that you've changed your state from not knowing how to drive to knowing how to drive, and the new state of knowing how to drive is still true at the time of speaking. That is, 我已经会开车了. That would translate literally into I already know how to drive now, which in better English might be rendered into the present perfect tense as I have learned to drive. That's 我已经会开车了. 我已经会开车了. The third sentence we want to look at from lesson 17 is 我想喝酒. Again, can you recall what that means? Hint, it has got to do with your drinks. That's right, it means I feel like drinking, as in drinking anything with alcohol. Again, this sentence simply states your desire to drink. That's 我想喝酒. Let's put 了 at the end of the sentence to form 我想喝酒了. Having gone through the last two examples, can you guess the added nuance of 我想喝酒了 compared to 我想喝酒? 我想喝酒了 conveys a current state of mind of I feel like drinking now, versus a previous state of mind where you probably didn't feel like drinking. So you can imagine a situation where you're having dinner with a friend, and at the beginning of dinner, you told your friend that you didn't feel like drinking, but as dinner progressed, maybe because you had spicy or salty food, you then felt like drinking. At that point, you would say to your friend, 我想喝酒了. That is, you have changed your state of mind and decided that you feel like drinking now. That's 我想喝酒了. Now, let's also look at how we can indicate that a change of state has not occurred. If you didn't feel like drinking earlier, and you still don't feel like drinking, we will add the two characters 还没 in front of the verb or auxiliary verb. So to say, I still don't feel like drinking, we will say 我还没想喝酒. 我还没想喝酒. Hopefully, from these first three examples, you have a good sense of this first use of 了. We refer to this first use of 了 as the change aspect particle. That is, it is associated with a particular change of state or circumstance. Now, let's look at a few other examples where we use this change aspect particle 了. A common sentence you might hear is 下雨了. 下雨 means to rain, and so 下雨了 means that it was not raining before, but it is raining now. That's 下雨了. 下雨了. Let's try to use the adverb 已经 with 下雨了. Let's say it's 7 p.m. now, and you walk out of a building, and you're surprised to see that it's raining. Your friend might say to you, 6点就已经下雨了。Can you figure out what that means? 6点就已经下雨了。That's right. That means it has been raining since 6 o'clock. Let's break that down a little. 6点 means 6 o'clock. 就 is used to indicate that something has happened at a time earlier than expected. In this case, that the rain started an hour before. And 已经 is used to indicate that the change of state from not raining to raining occurred at the previous time, that is, 6 o'clock, and persists to the time of speaking. Let's practice that a couple of times. 6点就已经下雨了。6点就已经下雨了。An opposite situation would be you were expecting it to rain, but when you walked out of the building, it was still not raining. In this case, you would say, 还没下雨. That's literally still not raining, or in better English, it has not rained. 还没下雨. 还没下雨. Another common phrase you might hear is, I've fallen sick. In Mandarin, to fall sick is 生病. 生病. To say I've fallen sick in Mandarin, you would say 我生病了. The use of the change aspect particle 了 here indicates that you were not sick before, but you are sick now. That's 我生病了. 我生病了. Now, can you try to put together the sentence for I've fallen sick since yesterday? Here, we want to be indicating that the change of state from not being sick to being sick occurred at a previous time, that is, yesterday. And so, we'll be using 已经. The sentence we are looking for here is 我昨天已经生病了. That's literally, I yesterday already fallen sick. Or in better English, I've fallen sick since yesterday. 我昨天已经生病了. 我昨天已经生病了. Let's reverse the situation again and imagine that you felt like you were going to fall sick the day before, but at the point of speaking, you are still well and have not fallen sick. What would you say? You would say, 我没生病. 我没生病 literally means I've not fallen sick. You might be wondering why we don't say 我还没生病. If you think about it, it's not that you can't say 我还没生病, but that sentence would mean I've still not fallen sick, conveying the sense that you still expect to fall sick, which we generally don't want to happen. So to say that I've not fallen sick, you would probably just say 我没生病. 我没生病. Now, let's do a bit of practice with a pair of question and answer. If you were in Shanghai, a question you might get asked is, how long have you been in Shanghai? How long, as in a period of time in Mandarin, is 多长时间? 多长时间? So the question we are looking for here is, 你在上海多长时间了? 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 And if you wanted to say, I have already been in Shanghai for 5 years. How would you say that in Mandarin? You would say, 我已经在上海5年了. Nian is the word for year in Mandarin. Note also that the change aspect particle le is used in both the question and answer because the fact that you are in Shanghai for 5 years is a state that is constantly changing. Previously, you might have only been in Shanghai for 4 years, and later on, you would have been there for 6 years. So time is a state that can be viewed as changing with the change aspect particle as well. 我已经在上海5年了。我已经在上海5年了。Do note that you can sign up for our premium membership on our website where you can receive lesson guides detailing all the language that we have gone through in this lesson. 非常好。We're now going to switch gears a little bit and talk about the second main point for this lesson. In this second part, we'll learn about imperatives in Mandarin. Imperatives are simply commands to do or not do something. For example, in English, we can say, eat your vegetables, or wake up, or don't talk, or don't run, or even let's go. A suggestion which is simply a softer form of an imperative. Imperatives are generally directed towards the second person singular or plural, that is you, and these are generally commands. They can also be directed towards the first party plural, that is we, and these are generally suggestions. For suggestions, we've already seen these in previous lessons when we learned to say 我们一起去吧. That is, let's go together. 我们一起去吧. Commands in Mandarin are very straightforward. The subject is usually omitted and we simply use the verbs by themselves as a command. For example, we can say 进来. That means come in. 进来. 进来. Or we can say 起身. That means wake up or get up. 起身. 起身. For negative imperatives, that is commands to not do something, we can use the adverb 别. That's B-I-E with a second tone and means don't. 别. 别 is placed right in front of the action we don't want someone to do. So we can say something like 别说话. That means don't talk. 别说话. 别说话. We can also say 别跑. That means don't run. 别跑. 别跑. The change aspect particle le is also commonly used together with imperatives. Instead of just a command, it adds an added dimension of imploring someone to stop doing something or not do something, often for their own good. For example, we can say 别喝了，你已经醉了. That means stop drinking, you are already drunk. Where 醉 means drunk. That's 别喝了，你已经醉了. 别喝了，你已经醉了. We can also say 已经半夜了，别去了. That means it's already midnight now, don't go. Probably with the intent of asking someone not to go somewhere since it is already so late. That's 已经半夜了，别去了. 已经半夜了，别去了. The change aspect particle le can also be used with positive imperatives to indicate that it is time to do something. For example, we can say 开始了. 开始 means to start, so 开始了 means time to start. 开始了. 开始了. We can also say 睡觉了 That means time to sleep. 睡觉了睡觉了非常好 Now let's listen to this lesson's dialogue. As we mentioned at the beginning of this dialogue, the dialogues for all the lessons in Module 3 will be between Guangxiang, Li Jing, and James. For more in-depth explanation of the longer dialogues, we suggest that you subscribe to our extended lessons. In the extended lessons, we will go through all the language used in the dialogues line by line. Now let's have a listen. James, 你怎么全身都湿了？请进，请进。
我从地铁站过来的时候下雨了。
来，快擦干，别感冒了。
幸亏你们家离地铁站很近。
当时买这套房子就是因为这里的交通便利。
我租的房子离地铁站这么近就好了。对了，这是给你们的红酒。
哎呀，都这么熟了，还这么客气。李静在厨房里，我去看看晚饭怎么样了。
来，可以开饭了。
太好了。
Let's run through the dialogue quickly to give you a sense of what was exchanged. Guangxiang opens the door and sees James all wet, and he quickly invites him in by saying, 请进. James explains that as he was coming over from the subway station, it started to rain. Guangxiang asked James to quickly change out of his wet clothes and not to catch a cold. That is, 别感冒了. James comments that 幸亏 or luckily, Guangxiang's apartment is near the subway station. Guangxiang explains that they bought the place because, or 因为, it was very convenient. James then wished that his apartment was as close to a subway station as Guangxiang's. He then gives Guangxiang a bottle of red wine as a present. Guangxiang tells James that they are already such good friends, 都这么熟了, and that James need not be still so polite, or 还这么客气, to have brought something. Guangxiang then says Li Jing is in the kitchen and that he's going to see if dinner is ready. Li Jing then announces that it is time to eat, 可以开饭了, and James exclaims 太好了, which is, that's great. Let's have one more listen to the whole dialogue. James, 你怎么全身都湿了？请进，请进。
我从地铁站过来的时候下雨了。
来，快擦干，别感冒了。
幸亏你们家离地铁站很近。
当时买这套房子就是因为这里的交通便利。
我租的房子离地铁站这么近就好了。对了，这是给你们的红酒。
哎呀，都这么熟了，还这么客气。李静在厨房里，我去看看晚饭怎么样了。
来，可以开饭了。
太好了。
We hope that you've enjoyed Lesson 21 of Dimsum Mandarin. Do note that with a premium subscription to Dimsum Mandarin, you receive an extended version of this lesson, where we will discuss line by line the language used in the dialogue. You will also receive a lesson guide detailing the grammar and vocabulary used in the lesson, a practice podcast with our regular translation exercises, a vocabulary booster podcast to go through the additional vocabulary related to this lesson's topic, and conversation worksheets to consolidate all that you've learned. To find out more about our premium membership, head over to www.dimsummandarin.com. Otherwise, 谢谢大家下载并收听我们的播客。In the meantime, happy learning and 下次见。This podcast is a production of the Language Domus. Find out more at languagedomus.com.